as far as the agenda goes, guys, I think we have a few more joining, but we'll just do intros up first. We'll have a little chit chat. I'll talk about some news, and then I'll do some Q&A with Amit. So we'll quit at 5 o'clock at the latest. So, Amit, is that okay? Do you have time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, what's been the response from the news, I guess?
It's been really good. I think very validating that recruiting analytics is something that there's a lot of hunger for. And certainly, from our customers as well as from the prospects that we're dealing with, it's in something we've been sucked into. When we talk to our customers, it's almost frustrating to them. Like, I was talking to our chief people officer the other day, and she's like, when she goes in front of her leadership team, sales has these charts and numbers, and marketing has charts and numbers, finance has charts and numbers, and recruiting is like feelings. And they deserve more. They deserve better. And it's shocking that that the recruiting technology is 20 years behind everything else. And that's what I think we are focused on delivering, is how do we get them to that same degree of analytical competence that everybody else in the organization now enjoys.
Right. Very cool. Let's have the group introduce themselves. So, Michael, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Inger. I'm the CEO of Resume Sieve. We're a SaaS-based HR tech company. Our product is at the front end of the recruiting funnel, helping break down the time it takes to do resume evaluation and ranking. And formerly, I was with several large RPO firms, and no kidding, recruitment analytics are critical, and they deserve a place at the table, and they don't often have it. So I'm with you on that.
Awesome. Okay, Oris, you're up.
Yes, I am. I'm interested just to know what Amit and the team are doing, and really fascinated by the progress they are making.
Cool.
It's great to meet you all.
We have a few more join as we go along, but we can get rolling here. So I got some news I wanted to share, and love you guys to comment on this stuff. Feel free to chime in. But I don't know if you all saw today, but Phenom just became a unicorn in our industry with $100 million in new funding.
Interesting. I didn't see it.
At least
they've been up for sale privately, quietly for quite some time. So that's an interesting direction for them.
Yeah. So they're now valued at 1.3 billion.
Wow.
According to the article in Bloomberg, they're going to go public at some point.
Yeah. Well,
it's pretty cool news. I mean, I know the team at Phenom pretty well.
Yeah.
They're down there in the Philadelphia region, and been to their events, and met most of the leadership at various times across the last couple of years, and great product. But yeah, they're at the top of the heap now as far as this funding goes, and that's on top of, I think, 60 million they got last year, if I believe correct. So yeah, they're doubling down on their product.
Yeah. Did they say what they were going to do with the funding?
They're going to continue to build out. I'm sure. I didn't read their CEO did a video on LinkedIn there. I haven't finished watching it yet, so don't have many details. It just came out like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours ago, so I haven't dived into all the details yet. But yeah, it's the golden age of HR tech. I think everyone's getting funding. Seems to be no end to it, and VCs are here to participate in this sector. So it's great for all of us. Right. What else? A couple other recent workshop. Way Communications just got 3.5. Visage, the recruiting crowdsourced marketplace, got 7 million a couple weeks ago. So the HR tech funding flow is in full effect, so there's no slowing down there. What did you guys think of the jobs report from March? 916,000 new jobs.
Yeah.
Pretty big. I never thought I'd see that number in my lifetime, as far as new jobs added, right? But what do you guys think of the job market?
Well, there's still the flip side of that, which is the number I heard is that we're somewhere like 62% replaced of the jobs that were lost as a result of COVID. So yeah, it's coming back faster than anybody thought. There's no question. And we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I read too that the restaurant industry is still down 1.2 million jobs from pre-COVID levels.
Wow.
So it's at 20% levels in New York City, for example.
Yeah.
Still a ways to
It's
go.
just crazy.
But yeah, we shall see. I mean, everybody's predicting this. The other thing I'm hearing too from recruiters is that no one's applying, particularly in the hourly space, because they're home. Have you guys heard this? What have you heard from your clients? I'm curious.
I haven't heard about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it feels like a very, very tight market everywhere. And like after March last year, a lot of people changed the direction. They changed locations. They changed what they were going to do. And I don't know if anyone wants to deal with the instability of some of these sectors.
Yeah, it's a good point. People are really taking stock of their careers, and it's making them think twice about certain jobs, I guess.
I'm hearing recruiters are in incredible short supply. I was talking to some of the folks that I used to work with in the RPO space, and as much as 15 to 20% vacancies in terms of recruiters. It's just like you can't find them, or if you do, the prices are going through the roof. So there's clearly activity going on, and I've heard the same thing about job seekers that. That I saw a stat the other day that said that if they weren't allowed to continue to work from home, 1/3 of the current work from home people would quit. So tremendous instability on the supply side, and on the demand side, it's hard to find people to do the work.
I mean, how do you feel about that remote stuff? Are people going to come back? You work in New York, and
yeah, we signed an office lease right before COVID happened, and a lot of our New York-based employees decided to move to other parts of the country. I think the remote-based is a net positive. I think it does a phenomenal job of equalizing the playing field across the country.
Yep.
And I mean, I think the idea of coming to an office 9 to 5 is anachronistic for 90% of the jobs that we have in our economy. So I'm actually excited about the trend to remote. I think it's going to be a huge net positive for a lot of companies, including us.
I remember when I got fired back in 2015 from my corporate TA job, I was looking for, I wanted to do employer branding, and I was doing some interviews. I remember this one company not too far, maybe 45 minutes, an hour from my house. And I said to them, I'd love to do the job, and they were interested in me, but I wanted to work at home at least a couple days a week.
Yeah.
Like, no, we can't do that. I'm just thinking back now to that time. I'm like, it's not the way to think now. It's they were kind of stupid to think that way in the first place.
Yeah, even there's so many companies out there that are still posting things like, we'll be remote in 2021, but we may require you to come back in 2022. And you're just like, guys, sounds like you did fine in 2021 and 2020, but remote, like, it's time to rethink some of these policies and provide some flexibility and
time to rethink the whole work week, 9 to 5 and all that stuff. I mean, I've never kind of adhered to that philosophy anyway, being, working for myself mostly for the last 20 years.
And the 9 to 5 work week has been incredibly unfair to women. It's been incredibly unfair to caregivers in our society in general, whether you're caring for a parent or a young one in your household. And giving people that flexibility, I think will be a net positive for inclusion, and that we're all striving to achieve in our workplaces.
Yeah, my neighbor had she works in HR actually for a retail store. And during COVID, she had to basically, not work because she had to watch the kids, and felt really bad. She was, her husband was working, but she wasn't, and I think she's still at home at least half the time. So
Yeah, one of the things that really scared me post-March and when COVID hit was the statistics that we're starting to see about the exit of women from labor participation. And even when we look at statistics around about women applicants coming in, and you don't see the same, like even though there's a huge amount of job creation, you're seeing applicants come back, we're not seeing similar representation as we saw before COVID. And that's hugely problematic for long-term equity in our society, but it also speaks very poorly of how we've set up our society, that the disproportionate amount of sort of household labor and household chores and child rearing still falls to women in our society today.
Yeah, particularly with the schools not yet all open, right? It's pretty good. I'm in Charlotte, and our public schools are open. The private schools have been open for a long time, but I was talking with a buddy who lives in Maryland, and his high school age kids still haven't gone back to school. So what are you going to do, right?
Right.
You're right. It falls disproportionately on the women. There's no question.
Yeah, and it's mainly because of the pay gap as well. When men are paid much more than women, then there's a high chance that when you weight financially, there's no way that the man can leave the job to take care of children because he's earning much more. But if there is an equal pay between men and women, then there will be definitely more policies around the sharing the parenthood between men and women. So in the UK, for example, the paternity leave is only 2 weeks, and it is almost unpaid. It's I think when I had it, it was around £150 per week, which is absolutely nothing. Once we start having pay equality, then things hopefully will be easier.
Well, there is some good news on the women front. There are a number of new startups targeting women recruiting. Thinking of the Mom Project, Fairy God Boss, things like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a good at least 8 or 10 now communities dedicated to getting moms back into the workforce, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
And it's definitely important to support those types of platforms out there. I know the Mom Project they've gotten a lot of funding in the last couple of years and doing some really good things around that stuff for part-time work and things like that, particularly in a professional space. So great to see that stuff. A couple more items on my list here. So let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. So if you haven't heard, guys, they're coming out with a digital wallet, supposedly, where you can basically pay people through LinkedIn. And that's supposed to enable their new freelance marketplace they're coming out with. So they're going to replace ProFinder, I guess. This was in the news, I think, last month. What do you think? Will they beat Upwork at their own game? I think if they do it right, they can certainly make a big dent in Upwork's business overall. But have you guys heard about this yet? And tell me what you think about the idea.
One of the things that Upwork was really effective for a really long time was the ability to, two things they're effective for is the ability to do it internationally, but also having basic level of assessments and ideas so that you're able to very quickly filter down the freelance sort of funnel to be more targeted and more qualified for your specific job at hand. So I think the payments is certainly going to solve one part of that problem, but there's a few other strategic building blocks that LinkedIn's going to have to put in place if they really want to take after, whether it's Upwork or Behance or any of the big freelance marketplaces.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if they can do this correctly or not. I think the payments thing is a digital wallet is interesting. It'll make things a lot easier. I'm curious how much they're going to take out of that, right? Upwork takes, 20% of any project.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big chunk of change if you're, a solo freelancer. I used it for a while. I gave it up essentially because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. So supposedly September is the timing of this. So we'll see what happens with that.
I would actually, just as a business owner, I wouldn't mind employees using LinkedIn to sort of whether you're getting a virtual executive assistant or administration assistant or a freelance designer or writer, Upwork is yet another system to onboard my team onto when they're doing that kind of hiring. And so if we're already using LinkedIn, it becomes easier to sort of centralize that, certainly.
Yep.
You know, I think it's interesting too that some of the larger staffing companies are creating their own tools to do this kind of thing, and so it's not just Upwork that's the competition, and of course LinkedIn is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but you know, a lot of these staffing companies have set up the same kind of thing to take a piece of you know, the short staffing or interim staffing. They also want to get the sort of, you know, the gig stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think there's still a lot more work that's going to go on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the long-term part of it. So, for example, the testing part and writing a test or doing, I'm talking about the tech hiring. If you are going to like always test people, asking them to take home assignment, and they have to spend hours doing it. If you do gigs through LinkedIn, you will have a confirmed and certified experience that you wouldn't get by doing normal jobs. Because usually if you work in a company, you wouldn't be able to basically showcase whatever you did there, even if it was brilliant. But if you have like rating and confirmation from people that you did something for them, I think it will ease and maybe simplify the tech hiring process.
That's a really good point. And the idea that you're getting credit for freelance work on LinkedIn, which you're not otherwise getting, because right now your freelance work lives on Upwork, and that's a really valid point.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier to share your work on LinkedIn versus an Upwork. Like on Upwork, you can do a video up there, I think, and you have a little profile, but it's not as robust at all as like LinkedIn's are.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And as a software engineer or anything in tech, you wouldn't particularly share what you've done in Upwork or Fiverr or something else, because you will be considered like doing cheap stuff, and this will downgrade the salary that you are going to negotiate later. But on LinkedIn, it will be more legit.
Yep. Awesome. You guys ever hired anybody off of Upwork or LinkedIn on the freelance side?
We've hired plenty on Upwork.
Have you?
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, we were bootstrapped for a long time in the beginning, and not as much on the development, but all sorts of, you know, from consultants to help us with specific pieces of advice, to admin help from time to time, to lead gen help from time to time. It's been a really good source. But as they've gotten bigger, it's getting harder to wade through it to find the people you'd want to find.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Last thing on my agenda for news is conferences. So I'm probably going to HR Tech in Las Vegas. I'm curious what you guys are willing to do as we come out of this thing. Any of you guys going? Have you made plans yet? Are you still scared or what?
Yeah. We're actually going to submit for a speaking slot, so we'll see. We had a booth at the last virtual one. I'm not particularly worried about the conference. I figure by then I'll have my shots and everything will be cool.
I go for my second one tomorrow, actually next week. So get my last Pfizer one. Michael, how was the virtual one that they did, the Spring HR Tech?
It was okay. I think the advantage of the virtual is that you actually get more people, and we're still culling through the database, you know, creating connections and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, we're small potatoes. You know, we were down at the bottom of the list and whatnot. We didn't have a, you know, speaking, and we didn't have a big ad placement, just the booth. But we got a few hundred people who wandered by the booth, and we've created about 200 connections out of it, and we'll be, you know, following up on those. Had some good conversations, a couple of different analysts and reporters. No sales out of it. You know, we'll see how that goes.
What did it cost for a booth?
We got the startup rate, which was $2,500, marked down from $5,500.
Interesting.
and this a speaking slot this time around was 6,500. So we passed that up. They're offering free speaking slots for Vegas, subject to them accepting your synopsis. And I just wonder if that's a way to try to induce people, because again, they said they had 20,000 in the fall and about 10,000 in the spring.
Mhm.
I've been to HR Tech many times, and I can't imagine they've ever gotten more than 4,000 or 5,000 live bodies. And are you going to get that many to come to Vegas, even in September? Yeah, we'll see.
Amit, you have any plans to go?
Oh, to be back in a windowless room having lunch buffets. Talking about the future of recruiting technology. Yeah, I mean, we haven't made a decision yet. And HR Tech is one of those, the Lollapaloozas of recruiting and HR, that how can you not want to participate? But it's also, there's so many conferences these days, and trying to figure out which ones to go for is just getting harder and harder.
Yeah. Well, I think there was you're right. There were so many conferences before COVID. I'm guessing now that that'll be whittled down a bit because some of them are just no longer in business.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. So I think there'll be a culling of conferences because of this, and more will go online as well. So I know I've moved a lot of stuff online, just from a convenience.
No one's really figured out how to do an online conference really well, though. It's been.
I do like the HR Tech one. They did have that their platform they use. I thought was pretty good, for an online conference.
I attended one. I think it was called Innovation Circus out of the UK. And you entered a room and you sat at a table, and you could have a conversation with the other 8 people or 7 people at your table, and they put a moderator at each table. So it was a really small conference. There were maybe 250 people signed up, but it was the closest I've seen to an actual conference experience. It's just the software, right? It's not the message is the message. We're presenting at People Matters HR Tech Singapore next month, and I don't know what the format for that one's going to be. We're finding more about that as we go.
Yeah, I've the platform they use for HR Tech, I'm not sure what it was, but it was pretty easy to get into. Pretty easy to click around and go to a new event, or go find somebody I wanted to chat with. So right, but there's that space is still evolving as far as that experience for online conferences, and it's going to continue to accelerate because of COVID. So we'll see about that. All right, that's all on my list for today. Anything else you guys want to mention or talk about before we talk to Amit?
Nope.
Cool. So Amit, I think I met you, if you remember, at was it Tech Day New York?
That's right. I think it was. We were there a couple of years.
Maybe back in 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, correctly. At the time, you're called TapRecruit.
That's right.
Now you're called Datapeople. When did that name change happen? I never read about it.
It happened in the last couple of weeks, alongside the fundraising announcement. I mean,
okay.
I think TapRecruit was always a placeholder name. And for a long time, when we'd call customers, and even when we'd hire for candidates, people would think, oh, you're a recruiting agency or a staffing or a headhunting firm. And especially as we've been moving into analytics more and more, it just sort of became a logical time for us to shed the TapRecruit name and think of something that's going to be a little bit more longstanding.
Yep.
And it's already helping with hiring. It's just so much easier to have a conversation with candidates as Datapeople.
Yep. Is it datapeople.com or co or?
.io.
.io, okay. Apologize. All right, so we're talking with Amit Bhatia, co-founder of Datapeople, here on the RecTech Meetup. So let's see here. So describe the product for the audience, because you started out as one thing, and now you have that, plus you have something else. You have the analytics piece.
We were always an analytics company. I think there's been this idea of sort of improved job writing, and different companies have come at it different ways. But we've always come at it as the only product that was built for recruiting that thinks about analytics. And so our product, we think of recruiting analytics as a three-part problem. It starts with language analytics and about both on the content and the language side, about making those great job descriptions, make them shine. And that's what our editor has continued to do. There's the middle part is operations analytics, which we've been increasingly rolling out. It's focused on recruiting ops leaders. Our customers like EA or DoorDash, they have these very, very large recruiting teams globally, and they need a place where recruiting operations can look and say, where is process being complied to? How is content making it out? Are my templates being followed? And where aren't they being followed? And so we've increasingly rolled those types of products out there and become recruiting operations friend in the process. And then the final type of analytics is performance analytics, which is about measuring your funnel, understanding where you're getting great candidates from, what the diversity of the funnel looks like, how do you continue to optimize your process to drive results? And they all go hand in hand because ultimately in our space, analytics is not a visualization problem. It's not about pretty graphs. The reason recruiting analytics is 20 years behind is because it's an organization problem. The data is messy, the data is dirty, it's not complete. You need lots of, this is not a field that has access to a lot of data scientists and data analysts to clean up and manage that data. And that's where we come in. We organize and augment the data and allow you to act on it.
There is a problem in recruiting in terms of data, which is basically, the team not basically inputting data correctly. I can think
Absolutely.
of many instances where the recruiter doesn't, correctly check off the workflow properly, or forgets to reject someone or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is a human element to this. So how do you kind of look at that problem and with your solution in place there?
In fact, one of the first things we do when we work with a customer is, first of all, we integrate their applicant tracking system, pretty much any of the applicant tracking systems within 24 hours, we're connected. And one of the first things we do is run a data integrity report. So we understand where are you having recurring data integrity problems. And a classic example of a data integrity problem is the recruiter auto-rejected all the candidates and magically one person got hired, but we don't actually know what the funnel looked like, or everything was marked as coming from one source, which is statistically not possible. And so we run a data integrity check and identify what if this data is usable and what if this data is not usable. And one of the metrics that we work with our customers on is how do we operationalize processes so that all your data is usable. When we were working with customers were like, oh yeah, we've turned on EOC reporting. And then we realized half their jobs didn't have it turned on because people were still using an old job template. And they don't realize that because their systems and processes don't have any alerting mechanisms. A large part of what we've been building is checks and balances and monitoring tools to allow you to figure that out. Okay. But it's a really, really valid problem. I'm glad you brought it up.
And so is recruiting analytics something you're basically going to hang your hat on as far as your identity as a company?
I'd say talent analytics is something, and recruiting analytics is one of those big parts of it. I mean, as we deal more and more with recruiting data, there's obviously areas where recruiting spills into the HR and talent function that we already operate on, whether it's internal mobility, whether it's leveling and compensation. But as I think recruiting is a very critical and big enough pie where it needs a solution of its own, where the people analytics players today don't really have very robust recruiting analytics tools. But in the long run, would love to participate in the talent processes, starting from the hire all the way to sort of the departure of a person from a company.
What's one data point that clients come to you and said, hey, I didn't realize this about my company. This is like shocking or, really important for us to know?
Oh, that's fantastic. One of the things that they don't realize is they'll come to us and they'll be like, we're not getting enough diversity in our applicant pool. We're just not able to hire women engineers or women in, or we're not able to hire underrepresented candidates in engineering or sales, leadership, and they wouldn't really understand why. And when we go through, there's many ways it could happen. Sometimes with the company, we'll go through and we find, you're overqualifying all your jobs. And when you overqualify your jobs, people don't think about it. They're like, oh, what if I look for unicorn candidates? I'll ask for an MBA required, 7 years of experience. And when you overqualify your jobs, you still get applicants. But what you end up getting is you get a lot of one-click apply candidates who don't actually read the job through. What you lose are the discerning applicants who are actually reading and saying, am I qualified? Am I not qualified? And disproportionately, the demographics of the candidates who one-click apply tend to be men. And they tend to, and so they aren't, and then they don't realize that they're still getting applicants, but it really hurts the diversity of their candidate pools. Sometimes when we work with customers, we realize that they are getting representative candidate pools at the top of the funnel. And magically you get to a certain assessment part in the process and disproportionately underrepresented candidates don't make it past. And it's a really good interrogation point for us to say, what are the types of things we're requiring at that stage? What are the types of assessments? And are they truly inclusive? And are they truly fair? So it's when we shine a light, it's always a little bit uncomfortable, but people are coming at it knowing that inclusion and diversity are not ever going to be solved problems. There are things we're working towards all the time. It's like going to the gym, and we're here to help.
That's an interesting tidbit about the men in one-click applies. Hadn't heard it. I've heard there was a study, I don't know, it was a couple last year about women will apply won't apply because there's X number of requirements, but if there's 5 of them and the men will, that men think they're qualified for, they're going to just go for it and apply at that point. But the women won't.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense from a one-click standpoint.
The idea, what you're referring to is that idea of the confidence gap. And I think it's a really powerful idea. One of the things we've been doing our own research into is what are the different ways the confidence gap manifests? And the confidence gap doesn't just manifest, for example, about number of qualifications or the types of qualifications. One of the things we found really powerful is the confidence gap applies when you use the word senior. If you have a job that has less than 8 years of experience or 5 years of experience, depending on the role, depending on the geography, and you use the word senior, and it often people are like, if I say senior, maybe I'll get more qualified candidates. And it actually is exactly the opposite. You use senior, and suddenly you get 4 times fewer qualified applicants for a junior mid-level job, and you get 4 times fewer women applying. Has a really dramatic impact. And we call it the confidence gap, but it's not a very good term for it, because the confidence gap implies that for some reason underrepresented candidates or women lack confidence. That's not true. What they lack, or it implies that they lack confidence in themselves. That's not true. What they lack confidence is in your process. They lack confidence that they're going to get a fair shake. And therefore they're choosing to apply for jobs that they will get a fair shake. And I think that's what we have to correct as we think about it. It's much more nuanced than the 3 or 5 requirements on the job description.
Yeah, interesting. Good stuff. Good stuff on it. Let's switch gears a bit. What's it like raising capital, venture capital? I guess you raised a series last year, I guess.
Yeah, we've raised a couple of rounds of funding at this point. Okay. It always feels like a bit of a colonoscopy because you're having to, because it's an uncomfortable process. You're putting yourself out, your whole body of work out for somebody else to judge and deem whether it is worthy of something. We've been incredibly fortunate that we found really thoughtful VCs. VCs, like for a long time, we bootstrapped this company. I bootstrapped this for 4 years. We didn't even have health insurance. I'm still sort of dealing with dental issues as a result of it. Thank goodness for the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
But for a long time, we bootstrapped it because we had this sort of vision of what fairness looks like at the workplace and and we were very worried, like if you put the pressures of capitalism and VC and all of those things on top of it, can that vision survive? And then we started getting all of these really large customers, getting customers like Levi's and EA and all these amazing sort of wonderful partners. And we realized that the only way to actually fulfill our vision was to actually have capital and have resources. And so we started fundraising and we got lucky. We met a lot of very strange VCs along the way, but we also got lucky that the people who partnered with us, first round, Uncork and Next View, 2 out of the 3 of them are women. believe and understand our vision. They believe and understand the future that recruiting needs to go to, and the power that we can have in sort of changing outcomes, not only for recruiting, but economically and societally. So it's been a really wonderful experience to have them on board and part of the journey.
That's cool. What would you say like one lesson would be just in terms of the experience of raising venture capital that came out of all this?
It's such an experience from a storytelling perspective. I think it's a lesson that I've learned, but I'm still learning how to do right. Is it's a unique type of story that you have to tell in the venture capital community, because they want to believe they want to believe that your company is going to be $1 billion company, or today a $10 billion company, and they want sort of that's what the returns are, and so it's really important to keep that in mind in storytelling. But it's a very different story that you tell to a customer sometimes, where a customer wants to believe you're going to be around in 10 years and you're going to be around to partner with them, and there's like this idea of stability versus the idea of opportunity. I think that's something that every entrepreneur who's raising money grapples with, is how do I sort of tell that really, really big, ambitious story while still feeling authentic and still feeling true, and without feeling like I'm over my skis. And it's something that's taken me some time to learn.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so the company, I think I read it's about 30 people now.
Yeah, we're right around 30. It's probably going to be 40 by the end of the month. We're just hiring very quickly.
Yeah, what are you hiring for? Feel free to
everything
and everything. Yeah.
Everything. We're hiring across engineering, sales, marketing, customer success, design, product management. We've been very fortunate that the last couple of quarters, last year has been, when COVID happened, we were like every hiring company in the market, were like terrified. All of our customers stayed with us. We were able to, they were not only willing to stay with us, they're willing to double down and increase their relationships with us and buy more product. We've had a lot of success selling in the last few months. And so we're building the whole organization to keep up with everything.
Yeah. Did you kind of put back in last year, did you kind of slow down stuff on the marketing at all? Or tell me about that, go back to that time and tell me what it was like.
Yeah. I mean, I think from March to about June, those 3 months felt a little uncertain. And we certainly cut back on sales and marketing, just like everybody else, because we just didn't know. Yeah. We were fortunate to have money in the bank, but we just didn't know. And there was a little bit of a pause. I think customers were there was still a lot of discovery happening, but people were very uncertain about whether they were going to have budgets to do anything. By the time June rolled around in July, it started coming back to normal. And then now, as the job market report, as you talked about, 980,000 new jobs. I mean, we're certainly feeling that kind of pressure now on the other end, where people need to hire really quickly. They need tools really quickly.
Yep. Well, if you need a PR person, let me know.
Will do.
All right. What's on the horizon? What's next for the company at this point?
We're building. We continue to build, and I think the demand for recruiting analytics has been incredible. And we've got a lot of exciting new product launches for later this year around analytics and around D&I, and sort of continuing to build up performance analytics as an idea. We continue to integrate with lots and lots of different today we integrate with almost every major ATS, and we will continue to sort of add more integration partners into our list as well.
Yeah. That D&I piece, is that a specific feature as part of the product? Is it a specialized area in there and stuff?
I think it's really about, it is going to be a feature of the reporting product that we're rolling out soon, where people really want a little bit more transparency into how they can understand the demographics of their pipeline, and because everyone's now got pretty hard D&I goals from a recruiting standpoint, but they don't know how to meet them. They don't have any visibility in tracking them. We've been doing a lot of that work for customers, figuring out how to responsibly show that information to end users is not a product problem as much as it is sort of figuring out it's a bit of it's a bit of understanding the sensitivities around some of this data and when to show and how to show it. And we're close to cracking that problem. We'll hopefully roll that out very soon.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what's next, and glad you got funding. You got your wings there. Your HR Tech Startup got its wings, got its funding.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing what's next. So definitely stay in touch and keep us updated as to what's going on with the company.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's like really fun to get to talk about it.
Excellent. It's great to see you again, and always good to connect with my friends and peeps in the HR tech industry. So again, we'll probably do this again next month, maybe the month after that. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. So I will get this edited and pushed up on the YouTube channel, and I'll tag you guys online if that's okay, and put out the replay there for everybody else to watch.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Chris, Michael, or us, thank you. It was so wonderful
Boris,
to meet
Michael,
everyone.
Amit, again, thank
Yes.
you again, and
Thanks, guys.
next time on RecTech Meetup.
Thank you very much. And
Please.
like, yeah, it's really a good journey, Amit. Very fascinating, and it's inspiration for me. I'm actually bootstrapping a
Yeah.
startup related to the job description. So hearing you talking about it and talking about your journey, this is really inspiring. And I wish in 4 years I'll be in a position that's similar to your success.
Thanks, Russ. I hope you get there faster.
Thank you.
Take the easier route.
What is the
There's
easier
an
route?
easy route. There's an easy route. Oh man.
Get funding sooner. Don't wait as long as we did to
Really?
go get funding.
Okay.
It's a personal
interesting.
journey. It is. It's a personal journey, but I think it is. Sometimes money can make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get your first paying client? I'm curious.
It sort of depends. It took us about, after we launched our product, it probably took us about 3 or 4 months to get our first paying customer, a New York tech customer. But then it took us we took about 4 or 5 core customers and really worked to perfect the product with them before we started then turning on sales and marketing and scaling the business. And now we've got more than 100 customers, and we're very lucky for it.
Impressive. Awesome.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, that'll do for
Okay.
today. See you next
Great.
time.
Thanks,
Thanks, Chris.
everyone.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.